Hello, I'm a married woman in my 30s. Just 5 years ago, when I had no siblings, my mom divorced my dad when I was 10, so I had been all alone since then. My mom used to say as a habit that her life was ruined because of my dad and took pity on herself. At that time, I hated to listen to her saying that, but in retrospect, it must have been very hard to earn money and raise me as a woman all by herself. So she always said those things as a way to relieve her stress. My mom was a daughter of a very affluent family as the youngest. After she graduated from high school, she only got tutored to become a bride, so when she met my dad for the first time without having any experience of the outer world, my mom ran off with my dad despite her family's objections. So she could not have a wedding and just filed a marriage on record only. I was too young and ignorant, so I couldn't make a correct decision. If you don't want a ruined life like me, you better not meet the wrong man, so be sure to check out everything about him. My mom had to struggle much more than others because after she got divorced, in order to raise me, she had to earn money for the first time in her life. Because I grew up watching my mom, who had depression from struggling so hard, I matured faster, and I don't know when, but I began feeling sorry for my mom. Such feelings naturally led to hating my dad. The reason I hated him wasn't just because he made my mom suffer. The cause of their divorce was my dad's extramarital affair. I can clearly remember my mom telling my dad to come home after he ended his affair with a woman, but it was a shock that he chose that woman instead. That played a big part. Love? There's nothing like that in the world. You'd better never believe in love. After my dad left, my mom only drank for a while. Actually, her parents somehow found out that their daughter got divorced and offered to provide all financial support for me if she would remarry, but my mom refused her family's help. I didn't know anything at a young age, but I lived feeling insecure. What should I do if something happens to my mom? Thus, I decided that I wasn't going to get married to avoid being like my mom. My mom struggled for a while, but she found her determination to live with me and strummed up her strength and got back on her feet. My mom and I hated causing any inconvenience to others. Therefore, we did not rely on anyone else except ourselves, rain or shine. With my mother's sacrifice and my efforts, I was able to graduate from Yale University. I don't even believe in love, so how could I get married? I just want to live comfortably with you, Mom. Yeah, then, I was so upset and had a hard time, so I said something crazy like that. Just meet someone who is not like your dad, and meet a nice person. You can meet any number of talented, sincere, and kind people. Mom, that's being too selfish. Who in the world is that perfect? Why do you think there is none? Of course, there is. You'll definitely marry such a perfect person. I bet you. Shouldn't I, like everyone else, have a son-in-law and my grandchildren? What would happen to me if I don't have that kind of fun in my late years? What's living in luxury? That's living in luxury. My mom talked that way always because she thought I wouldn't marry because of her. I would hear that practically every day, and I didn't even pay any attention to it. However, I wondered if my mom's wishes were heard by God because I fell in love with a guy when I went to visit a company That was our account at work. And luckily, that guy also took an interest in me, and even though the meeting was over, he offered me to buy me lunch and asked if I could meet him again after work. Normally, I would be wary and draw a line, but there really must be a fated meeting that I didn't want to do that on that day. So I enjoyed the lunch the guy bought for me, and in return, I told him that I would buy him dinner when we meet again, but what he said made my heart flutter. Not today, but buy me next time, so I would have another excuse to meet you, Alicia, once again. The man who made my heart flutter like that became my husband 3 years later. My husband worked for a company about 6 hours away from Boston where I worked, so we had a long-distance relationship. Because we didn't see each other often, we yearned for each other and we didn't fight like other couples. And my boyfriend even relocated to Boston in order to marry me. Because of his strong will, our wedding proceeded rapidly. When I brought my boyfriend home, my mother was thrilled with all smiles because I had been adamant about not getting married. My boyfriend passed through my mother's picky inspection, and we were able to set our wedding date. I wasn't sure whether it was a good or bad thing, but my husband's family lived in Australia. It's not that my husband is mixed with Australian. His whole family immigrated to Australia, but my husband came back to the US alone to go to college and decided to stay. His mother, who was in Australia, had always worried about her son in the US, even though it was their home country, and thanked me, saying that he had my mom near him. Now that he has established a family of his own, she said she felt very relieved. People around me envied me because my in-laws were in a foreign country. After we got married, we got a place for our newlywed near my mother's house. During my newlywed life, I regretted why I said that I didn't want to get married when it was so great. I was that happy. But was I too spoiled from being too happy? You never know in life. One day, I received a call from an unknown number. It was from my older aunt with whom we had no contact for a long time. "Is it Alicia? It's your aunt. You must be surprised since it's been so long since we last talked." In that instant, I became frozen. I immediately thought to just hang up the phone, but I couldn't do it. As the result of that ended up with my learning that my father had passed away early that morning. It had been over 20 years since I last had seen my father. It felt so strange. "Hello? Are you listening? I know your mom would be furious, but still, it's your father. So I felt that you should at least come to the funeral, so I asked Michelle for your number." Michelle was my cousin who was their daughter, and she was my age. Even though my mom and dad got divorced, Michelle and I didn't sever our ties and kept contact closely like sisters, like friends. My aunt knew that, so that's why she had contacted me. "Does my mom know that Dad died also? And didn't Dad remarry that woman whom he was seeing at the time? I remember very clearly that he was going to her." When I finally came to my senses, I asked my aunt. I felt this strange, so I wondered how my mom would feel. I was worried. "That I really have a lot to tell you, but I didn't know how you and your mom would take it." My aunt told me a story that she heard from my dad one day before he died. My dad was being chased relentlessly by my mom's parents to break off with my mom after they eloped to get married. Around that time, my dad also had to face angry debtors who were trying to collect his father's gambling debts. So, my dad ended up lying to my mom, saying that he was having an affair with another woman when he was just running from the debtors. Had I known this earlier, I would have gone to see your mom to tell her the truth and untangle this unfair misunderstanding about your dad. But because of your father's stubbornness to remain silent, I am telling you only now. After I heard that from my aunt, I was flabbergasted. How could a person live all these years with such a big secret like that? I couldn't believe it, as if it was all a lie. However, when my aunt continued to tell me that my dad truly believed that my mom and I would live without too much worry if only he disappeared, I felt like I could feel the sincereness of my father. Later, while he was on the run, moving from a rural area to another, he ended up living with a poor woman that he was trying to help, who got pregnant with a daughter 14 years ago, so he registered the marriage legally for the baby's sake. When I heard that, I felt very confused. It was very chaotic for me, and I wondered how my mom would feel about it. I had never missed him even once while we were separated, but I was resentful that he died without saying a word. So, I told my aunt not to say anything to my mom. Also, I asked my aunt what good was it for me to attend the funeral when he had a wife and a daughter. But my aunt told me that his second wife had died away before my dad, and even if it would be difficult for my mom to attend the funeral, she tried to persuade me to the end for me to come. Still, there's a daughter other than me. I felt spiteful and stubbornly said I would not attend to the end. After I hung up the phone, I looked out of the window into the sky for a while, and as if I had the DNA of my father inside me, my tears started to flow down. My heart and my head weren't sad at all, but strangely, my tears did not stop. It's what he deserved. He should have come to us again at a later time. It's all caused by my dad alone. I shouldn't feel sorry to think that way. I returned home from work thinking that way. My husband was quick to notice the mood on my face and asked me if anything was wrong. After hearing what I said, my husband was silent for a while. Then, he held my hand, asking me to go to my father's funeral right then. No, why should I go there? And if I go, how would that make my mom feel? I don't want to. I won't go. I know I am being childish, but my dad abandoned my mom and me and went to that woman instead. And he even has a daughter by her, so why should I go there? I snatched my hand away from my husband and got mad at him for the first time. Actually, it wasn't something I should get angry with my husband, but when I calmed down, I felt embarrassed to see my husband. I'm sorry. It was not something to be angry with you. I got angry when you asked me to go there. That's okay. It's something I could understand how you are feeling somewhat. However, you might regret it later, and it'll be too late. If you feel like that, I'll go by myself. He is someone who made my most beloved wife to be in this world. So I want to greet him properly. Because of my husband, I couldn't help but head for the funeral. He insisted on going there alone, but how could I let him go there all alone? We promised each other to never tell my mom, and late at night, when the guests would be sparse, we would just go there to pay our respect and come back right away. However, when we arrived there was a big, noisy riot inside, and we went in wondering what was going on. There I saw my aunt, whom I hadn't seen for a long time, having a big argument with one person I didn't know. As I watched it, it seemed that my aunt was fighting with a family member of my dad's second wife. That's why I warned her not to see that bastard, and he sure earned it. How could he make my younger sister die like that, and did he think that he would live happily ever after? How could you say awful things like that? How did my younger brother do for your sister? He even left behind his wife and his daughter to live for them, yet how could you curse him like that? So, who told him that he should do that? If it weren't for him, my sister would have married a wealthy man and lived in luxury with maids. How could an older brother like you could say things like that? Are you bragging that you were going to have your younger sister marry an old man who was over 70 years old? Now that you have brought it up, didn't my brother end up in a situation when he was only trying to help your sister get away from your trying to sell your sister off to that old man? Never mind. You better put his life insurance money into this checking account. When I checked, the name on the insurance policy was your name. Eventually, it was because of money. I paid for the insurance because I was worried about my younger brother, so why should I give you that money? Now that you are saying it, with what right are you asking for my younger brother's money? Are you going to raise your niece? I'm telling you in advance, I won't. I don't want to be mixed up with a person like you any longer. If you take her, then I might give you some money for caring for her, so if you like, you could do that. At my aunt's word, I moved my gaze to a young girl who wore a black dress for the funeral. She looked confused and fearful. She reminded me of myself how I looked 20 years ago when my mom and dad were facing a divorce. Right then, her gaze met mine. In that instant, I think we recognized each other. Okay, I'll take her, so you better pay me enough child support for her. Even at a glance, it was obvious that the man who was fighting with my aunt seemed to take the child only for money. Then, he roughly pulled on her dress. In that instant, I didn't realize it, but I ran over and held her hand. He snarled at me so roughly that I couldn't say anything. I couldn't say that I was her half-sister or a stranger. Right then, my husband intervened in the middle, blocking the girl and me from the guy, and pulled out his mobile phone. If you continue to cause trouble, I'll call the police. And he ended the situation. Oh my, Alicia, you have come. So a bloodline is a bloodline. Come and greet your dad. My poor brother, who couldn't see his own daughter when he was alive, finally gets to see her when he's dead. My aunt said it weeping. I looked at my dad's portrait, which I hadn't seen in a long time. I had believed that I had forgotten him, but all the happy times I had with him when I was young played as if it was a panorama in my head. And strangely, my heart went out to that young girl. I quietly approached her and asked her name and her age. Her name started with the same alphabet A as my name, which was Annie, and she was 14 years younger than me, 17 years old. I couldn't feel any emotions on her face as she answered me. It seemed that she had given up everything, looking depressed. My aunt bade me farewell as I got into our car to leave. When my husband started the car engine, and the car was driving on a vacant road, I suddenly felt as if I shouldn't go back, and felt so strange. So I asked my husband to go back to the funeral. We went back to the funeral, and I gave my half-sister my business card and said, "This is my phone number. If you're having any hard time, be sure to call me. Don't be a fool and try to endure it all alone. Also, never go with that man. You know why, don't you? If you don't have a place to go, call me, as I'm your sister, okay? For sure." It's amazing when I think about it even now. Why did I say that to my half-sister that I had met for the first time? I knew that if my mom found about it, she would faint, but I kept looking at the phone and stayed up all night. After a month, and a second month passed, I thought, well, I would forget now with time. And I came back to my usual day routine. But I would think about my half-sister now and then. Then, one day, I kept thinking something bad, so I called my aunt. "Auntie, how is that girl doing and where is she?" "That girl? After the burial, I dropped her off at her uncle's house." "That uncle? Isn't that the one whom you fought with? How could you send her to someone like that?" "But what could I do? After you left, he kept hassling me. And I wasn't the one who's to send her there. She told me that she wanted to go. Is that why you called me, because it was bothering you?" I asked my aunt for her address. The next day, my husband and I took a vacation day from our respective work and went over to her house. However, she ran away from home. I was going to ask what happened, but the man was drunk even though it was just midday and wasn't sober, so we went by a nearby police station and filed a missing persons report. Exactly 1 week later, I was able to find my half-sister. "Are you stupid or something? Didn't I tell you not to go there? What did you do with my business card? Did you throw it away?" "I needed to go with him so that other people would feel comfortable. My uncle used to come often when my father was alive and accused my dad, saying it was his fault that my mom died and demanded money. I don't know anything else, except I hate causing trouble on someone else." In that instant, I felt a pang in my heart. In that sense, our same characteristics like that took after our father so much. I also used to hate burdening anyone, and she was the same way like me. Anyway, maybe that's why I hated my dad even more. Anyhow, I told her to live in our house for a while. That uncle of hers would not know where I lived, so my sister could stay without worrying. However, it was my shortcoming to think that. The next day, my mom came over to my house, saying that she bought too much fruit to give some to me when she met with my sister without my husband and me. "Oh, you are you?" "I am Alicia's younger sister." "What? Whose younger sister?" "I am Alicia's sister." "What?" That day, I rushed home, using a half day off from my work. Then, I saw my mom of 20 years ago, who couldn't calm herself from the anger after she got divorced. "You better hurry up and explain. She says that she's your younger sister, but I didn't give birth to a daughter other than you. So how could she be your younger sister?" "Mom, calm down. There are many relationships where we become sisters. Why are you getting all emotional? Just sisters? Are you taking your mom for a fool? It seemed that my mom seemed to know everything, and with my foolish excuses, she became angrier. It was something that I should tell her the truth, but when I was faced with the reality, I didn't know how to tell her. Right then, my sister said, "I'm sorry, I'll leave. It's not Alicia's fault. I didn't have any place to go, so she let me sleep overnight." She rushed out and left. I didn't think that was right, and I tried to stop her, but my mom blocked me and wouldn't allow me to go after my sister. "Mom, she doesn't have place to go." "So what? Why should you care? She needs to go to her parent or to her friend, no matter if she's too young, but how could she come to you?" "She didn't come. I brought her." "Are you going to continue to lie and keep protecting her?" "She told me the whole truth earlier. She ran away, and when she spent all her money and became hungry, she came to see you. You're my daughter, but you're too nice. Even though she's your half-sister, did you want to care for her behind my back? How long have you known her? Have you contacted your dad by any chance?" When I heard my mom, I couldn't let my sister go off like that. I didn't know what made her be so mature at her young age, but I felt so sad, and I needed to hold my sister's hand. However, I couldn't find her. Helpless, I came back home and told my mom about what happened. My mom seemed shocked and confused that she fell on the floor. A while later, she said that she had a headache and left for her house. After that day, my sister went into hiding somewhere no one knew who she was, and I barely found her phone number through someone who knew her. However, the number was disconnected a long time ago for non-payment. According to her friend, that phone was her treasure number, one because it had all her photos and everything she liked on the phone. So I went to the phone company and paid up all her unpaid phone bills, and I was going to call her, but decided to just send her a text message, telling her now my mom found out the whole story and it was okay for her to return. So don't run away and come back home. However, I didn't hear from my sister. My husband said that since I left the text message and she knew our contact numbers, so asked me to wait. A year later, although I paid for my sister's phone bill every month and sent text messages, I received no replies. Then, one day, I didn't feel well and felt nauseous, and I thought I became pregnant. Hoping that I was, I used a pregnancy tester. I tried several times, but it came out negative. So I went to the hospital. If the test is done too early, I heard that the result come out negative. But I was shocked to learn that I wasn't pregnant, but I had a kidney disease. I did notice that my body felt numb and got swollen often, but I didn't think much of it, which made the disease get worse. The doctor said that my kidney capacity was operating only at 10% of a normal kidney, and in this situation, I needed to do kidney dialysis or get a transplant. I never thought of myself as being dense, but after hearing my body status, I went blank. My mom and my husband immediately took tests for compatibility with my cells. "Don't worry, I'll give you my kidney. I'm over half of my 100 years, so I don't care." "Mom, you're not healthy. You have anemia and even heart problems. So it's okay. You suffered a lot from even having the appendix out. It's okay. I could just get dialysis diligently and will take good care of myself." "What do you mean it's okay? My own daughter is sick and will end up getting kidney dialysis. How could a mother just stand by and watch?" Even though I refused, my mom acted as if she would give me both of her kidneys or something. Even though I didn't expect it, my husband's test results showed that he was not compatible with me. I didn't know when I would get a kidney, but I applied at the organ transplant registry, and even if it was uncomfortable, I didn't have any solution except get kidney dialysis. After that day, I didn't plan on it, but I became different than before. When I realized that I have a disease, unlike other people, I didn't think that I could live normally as before, and I wondered if I was making my husband's life miserable. I started to feel less confident and spent the days practically in shock. When the day came for the dialysis, I was so scared and I cried so much. After the dialysis, I was suffering from all kinds of side effects, like bad headaches, that I felt helpless, thinking how I could continue like this in the future. When I came to my senses, I forgot that I didn't pay my sister's phone bills. Since I didn't know if it would happen more often in the future, I called her. Even though she did not answer, I left a voice message. "Are you okay? I haven't been feeling well, so I forgot to pay your phone bill. Since I don't know if it would happen again, so I want to send you some money. Please send me your bank account number via text message. I don't know anything else, but for your phone, that I heard you like so much, I'll pay for your phone bills. And when I send the money to your bank account, don't feel you are being a burden and just spend it, okay?" My husband said he was amazed to see me like that. Truthfully, I didn't know why I did that much either. But when I first saw her at the funeral, I just thought of nothing else except that she was my sister. If she was living a good life in luxury, I would just curse at her and cut off my attention for her. But I couldn't ignore my younger sister, who was trying so hard to stand on her own 2 feet because she hated being a burden to others. Time passed, and another day of kidney dialysis came up. On that day, I really felt that I wanted to die. But I heard from my husband that we got a donor from a woman who was willing to give me a kidney transplant. My mom and I became so happy that we cried. We wanted to reward the donor, but after the surgery, when I woke up, there was my younger sister lying next to me. Even though I wasn't out of the anesthetics, my mind became crystal clear. When I left a voice message telling her that I would pay her phone bills and so forth, I felt somewhat uneasy. But to my suspicion, my husband told me the truth when I became fully awake from anesthetics. "I'm sorry. I was so desperate that when your sister told me she would do it, I didn't stop her. Even if she wanted to, if she was found to be not compatible, she couldn't go through it. So I just told her thanks and asked her just do the test. When it was compatible with you, and she said she would go through with the surgery, I didn't stop her." "Still, you should have told me. Did I wait all this time just so that I get her kidney?" Right then, my sister, whose recovery was faster than me, came over to my hospital bed, dragging her IV stand and said, "I insisted that I would do it. I wanted to be of help to you, sis. So don't scold your husband. I am very happy that there was something I could do for you." Even though my sister's recovery was fast, she didn't look well after a while, and I told my husband to get her back to her bed immediately. My mom, who heard all about the truth, came to my hospital bed and gave me my sister's wallet that she left with my husband. When I opened her wallet, I forgot that I even had an operation and sobbed out loud for a long time. She only had $2 bills in her old worn wallet. Along with her ID was the business card that I gave to her, and next to my name printed on the card was pretty writing which seemed to have been written by in her, "My birth sister," with a heart emoticon drawn next to it. After that day, my mom has been opening her heart a bit by bit because of her regrets toward my dad and my younger sister. My mom is so grateful that Annie gave me her kidney since she has given me a new life. My mom said that she wants to caress and embrace her warmly to make up for the harsh life she lived all this time. Not too long ago, we found out that my sister was terminated from her school for non-attendance since our dad died. Even before me, my mom went to the school district and set it up so that she could go back to school. Thanks to my mom, my sister was able to go back to school. Even though she attends classes with one lower grade student, I feel so happy to see her bright face who is finding a meaning in her life. With my sister's kidney, I was able to speedily recover and return to the daily life that I had dreamed about. I am living as my younger sister's older sister, not only in the business card, but as sisters that I had never thought it would ever happen. At first, my husband acted awkwardly to have a new sister-in-law, but including my mom, he is doing all kinds of rough work to take care for us, the three women. Also, right now, I could never tell my mom, but as my dad passed away, I wondered if my dad was entrusting my sister to me. I really hated our same characteristics that hate being a burden to other people, so I detested that my sister and I took exactly after our father. But if my father didn't have that big secret with him, today would have never occurred, would it? I plan to live the rest of my life thanking my sister for her kindness to me. I want to have her live happily as much as I had been, which was not available to her before. Thank you for listening to my story. I'll pray for your healthy and happy days always. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. Have a wonderful day.